going on now. It's the Memorial Day sale at Bray & Scarf. Now's your last chance to beat upcoming manufacturer price increases. Save up to 35% on select GE Profile and Cafe appliances. And save on in-stock GE refrigerators and best-selling washers and dryers. Plus, get next-day delivery, online delivery day tracking, and delivery day installation. Visit any of Bray & Scarf's convenient locations or shop online at brayandscarf.com, where it doesn't cost more to get more.
With McValue at McDonald's, you don't just get deals on the drinks. You get deals on McDonald's drinks. So when you're breaking a sweat, embrace the chill without breaking the bank. And when your crew is running on empty, keep your wallet full while refreshing the squad.
Ace the vibe check with drinks like lemonade, frozen Fanta Blue Raspberry, or any size drink for just $1.49. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
A warning to our listeners, this episode includes description and discussion of sexual assault. Please take care. The details from inside a London, Ontario courtroom have been graphic and disturbing. The sex assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players is now underway, examining the events of a night at a hotel room in 2018 following a gala event celebrating the championship win and a night at the bar. The complainant, referred to as EM to protect her identity, took the stand for 9 days. Outside the courthouse, a flood of support for her. Inside, teams of lawyers questioning everything. And a big development on Friday, the jury discharged, with the trial now proceeding before a judge alone. The legal team for one of the accused, Alex Fermenton, releasing a statement saying, quote, "A juror came to somehow believe that our courtroom demeanor was disrespectful of her." This development happening 3 weeks after a juror complaint about one of the same lawyers led to a mistrial. I'm Melanie Ng, and in this episode of The Big Story, we take a look back at court proceedings so far, before the jury was dismissed, plus the possible ramifications from a verdict. Joining me now is CityNews journalist Michelle Mackey, who's been in the courtroom every day of this trial.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Let's backtrack a little bit before we get to where we are to this point. Anyone who's been following the headlines, there have been a lot in the headlines as of late. As noted, the incident that is in question goes back to 2018. There was a police report. Then there was a settlement on a civil lawsuit, an internal Hockey Canada investigation in 2022. And then we are here. So the accused, Cal Foote, Dylan Dubé, Alex Fermenton, Carter Hart, and Michael McLeod, they have all pleaded not guilty. Each has a team of lawyers. You've been sitting in this courtroom. Before we get into some of the details, and again, I warn our listeners, some of these details will be graphic. They will be disturbing in nature. What's it been like to cover this case so far?
It's been fascinating. It's been grueling. It's unlike anything I've ever covered before, primarily because there are 5 defendants, 5 defense teams, and 1 complainant. So sitting through this marathon cross-examination has been quite grueling for, I think, everyone.
And EM, the complainant, has been testifying from another room via closed-circuit television and shown on the big screen in the main courtroom. And again, that main courtroom full of teams of lawyers. What is that like sitting for you as a journalist and seeing that play out in that manner?
It's a great question. It almost feels unreal because you're in this courtroom with the understanding of how massive this trial is and what the ramifications are. And yet, at the same time, you're sitting in a courtroom and you're all just humans. You know, you've all just had breakfast. You've all just had your morning coffee. And so it's a bit of a mind trip, right? You're all humans, but this is an incredibly high-profile trial. And it's been fascinating. That's the word I keep coming back to.
Michelle, let's talk about the night in question in 2018. At the heart of this case is consent. And if you could go through some of the events, we don't have to go through every single detail, but for our listeners to go back to that night in 2018, take us to that night at the bar, because there have been so many pieces of evidence that have been introduced with EM and the various accused at the bar and then to the hotel room. So can you take us through the sequence, and then we'll go through what happened on the stand?
Okay, so I think the best way to go about this is to say what EM is alleging. So we'll go from her perspective here. EM says she goes to a bar called Jack's Bar, and that is where she meets Michael McLeod. She knew him as Mikey at that point, and she says she didn't understand that they were hockey players until the end of the night, and even then she didn't really understand the level at which they played. So she says after a night of drinking and dancing at Jack's Bar, where she had about 10 drinks at the bar, 2 drinks before, so 12 drinks, she chooses to go back to McLeod's hotel room at the Delta London Armories, and they have consensual sex. After this, she says she goes to the bathroom. She is still naked, and she is shocked and surprised when men start streaming into the room, as many as 10 at one point. She says that some of the men put a sheet on the floor. She lies down on the sheet. She says that they tell her to start masturbating and moaning. So she says she does this, and she says she's hearing conversations during this time. And I apologize because what I'm about to say is graphic. She says she's hearing conversations about golf clubs and golf balls being used on her as sex objects. She says at this point she starts to get scared, and she describes it as her mind leaving her body. She says she kind of goes on autopilot. During this time, she says that I believe 2 men receive, she performs oral sex on 2 men, has sex with 1 man in the bathroom, and then has sex with McLeod again. But what she is saying is that everything after that first consensual encounter with McLeod, she's saying everything after that was non-consensual. So after these alleged incidents occur, she says, McLeod says something along the lines of, so are you going to leave? We got to get up for a golf tournament in the morning. So she leaves. He doesn't allegedly walk her to the door or offer to buy her an Uber. She's feeling very disrespected, used, and she's saying her mind is starting to come back to her body, and she's sort of starting to realize what happens. We then see security camera footage of her leaving the Delta, and in the lobby, she appears to be crying, upset, on the phone. And she gets an Uber home, and that is where her mother finds out what happens and calls the police.
Thank you for that, Michelle. And I know you're leaving out some pieces because there are so many details and more to come out in this trial. In question, when we saw EM on the stand, these teams of defense lawyers, again, she was up there for 9 days and just pummeled with questions, question after question. And one of them was even just about language. Previously in her questioning early on referred to them as boys. And on the stand, it was said, well, now you're calling them men. Why the change? When you hear, of course, these lawyers are doing what they're doing. But for a complainant and someone who is trying to recount these moments, a lot can happen between 2018 and where we stand in 2025 when it comes to language. So what was it like to watch that, hearing the complainant being challenged over and over and over and reliving that?
Yeah, they, as defense lawyers, need to pick apart every single aspect of her story, from what she remembers, from what she doesn't remember, from what she possibly remembers, from what she possibly said. And when it comes to that language argument, that was really interesting because what she was saying is, yeah, it's been 7 years. I was 20 at the time. These men were at least 18. And I was calling them boys at the time, but now it's been 7 years. I'm 27 years old. I am mature. I now have a better understanding of what happened to me. So of course I'm going to call them men because that is a fact. If you're over the age of 18, you are a man. I come back to that word grueling now. It was 7 full days of cross-examination, 2 on either end where the Crown was kind of leading her through her own story. And I think she looked exhausted by the end. And I could see people in the courtroom also looking quite exhausted. Think about that. Every memory you have being picked apart.
Did your last vacation house for the whole crew leave you wishing there was a better way to stay together? Like with bedrooms that are all great, so everyone thinks they got the best room?
Whoa! This is amazing.
A full bathroom in every bedroom?
Hey, mine's got a bathroom.
A beach around an epic, clear bay big enough for swimming, rope swinging, and even kayaking? All next door to Walt Disney World? Next trip, share a house at Evermore Orlando Resort. You won't believe what you resorted to before.
With McValue at McDonald's, you don't just get deals on the drinks. You get deals on McDonald's drinks. So when you're breaking a sweat, embrace the chill without breaking the bank. And when your crew is running on empty, keep your wallet full while refreshing the squad.
Ace the vibe check with drinks like lemonade, frozen Fanta Blue Raspberry, or any size drink for just $1.49. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Let's talk about some of the other themes that the defense lawyers focused in on. Again, like you said, they really needed to take apart every bit of her account from that night, even the morning after and subsequent days. What are some of the things that you heard in that courtroom?
A reoccurring theme that the defense brought up was questioning how drunk she actually was that night. And here's why. Most of the Crown's case really hinges on her being too drunk to consent, because we have seen 2 videos from Michael McLeod's phone in that hotel room where she says, I consented to it all. The Crown is arguing she was too drunk to be able to do that. So defense at one point actually brought in Jaeger bomb shot glasses from Jack's bar, passed them around to the jury, and then revealed that in these shot glasses, there's only a half ounce of liquid alcohol, only a half an ounce. So EM has testified she had 8 Jaeger bombs at the bar, and we saw that on CCTV. But the defense lawyer said, hey, that's actually closer to 4 drinks. EM also testified that she weighed around 120 pounds at the time of the alleged incident. That defense lawyer then brought up the fact that her medical records in the days after showed she weighed 138 pounds. So, 20-pound difference could impact the effect alcohol has on a body.
This is interesting, this case, for so many reasons. I want to talk about what's happening, not just in the courtroom, but also outside of the courthouse. You can hear the chanting, you see the signs, and there's a lot of support for EM. You've talked to many of the people outside of the courtroom. What have they been saying?
They say that they are going to be there every day she is on that stand. They say they believe her, they stand with her, they support her. There's a lot of admiration for her, people understanding that it's very hard to be cross-examined for a day, let alone 7 days. And so what happens is every time one of the accused arrives at court, they chant. They typically say, what do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. But in the last few days, they've really started targeting some of the lawyers as well. There's some TikTok videos going around where people are saying it's alter ego Dan, because Daniel Brown is one of the lawyers who brought up that maybe she had some sort of alter ego on the night. So that's been really interesting. And each day where there have been protests outside, there's been more and more people showing their support.
Phil, I want to say Canadians are watching. It's not just a Canadian story by any means on so many different levels. The world is watching this story. The idea of hockey culture. This is something that we have, brought into the headlines when, Hockey Canada, when they were in the spotlight for this internal investigation, basically after the media reported on the settlement of that civil lawsuit. And there was a lot of conversation around, you heard terms like, and I really don't like saying these terms, but like boys will be boys, misunderstandings, these kinds of things. These are not my words. These are words that were said, which maybe online, social media, all of these things. This trial, what is actually on trial? Is it, obviously it is the case, but also it feels like there's a shift in understanding around hockey culture and what it means. Is that something that you are seeing?
Absolutely. I think regardless of what happens with this case, regardless of the verdict, conversations are happening. I have friends with kids. I have friends with sons who are saying, we are talking to our boys about what consent is and what consent is not. These conversations need to happen. They're healthy conversations. And I think scrutinizing hockey culture and having these conversations about, are events like this normal? Are these happening in the hockey world? Do parents know this is happening? Do people know this is happening? The more we talk about these things, hopefully the more we can correct this.
And I don't want to say it's just a hockey thing. It's what we're seeing, but it's exactly as you said. These are bigger conversations about consent, which is key. And again, at the heart of this trial. This trial will be going on for some time. What do you anticipate will be happening next? Of course, they need to get through a slew of witnesses. So can you play out for us the what's next in what we can expect?
Well, they have dozens upon dozens of potential witnesses. Over 40 possible witnesses were read out to the jury before this trial started. We've had about 5. So we have a lot more to get through. At this point, it's unclear whether the defendants will actually take the stand. I don't know if that's going to happen. The court has set about 8 weeks for this trial. And from what I'm hearing, they're thinking about 5 to 8 weeks in total. So I would say we're maybe slightly over the halfway point or at the halfway point around this time.
Have the lawyers been open in speaking with media outside of them entering into the courthouse and a few things here and there? Has a lot been disclosed? I know there are some details under publication ban, including the complainant's name, again referred to as EM. Has there been much disclosure outside of the courtroom that we've seen?
Everyone's pretty tight-lipped. The conversations outside of the courtroom are pretty mundane. They're often about the weather, about what people are wearing, perhaps. When it comes to talking about the case, lawyers are fairly tight-lipped, keeping their cards close to their chest.
Let's talk about possible verdicts and sentencing here. What could the accused see if found guilty?
So here's the thing. So we know that the 5 pro hockey players are charged with sexual assault. Michael McLeod also has another charge against him, being party to a sexual assault, because the Crown alleges that he was knowingly encouraging other teammates to perform sexual acts with EM, knowing she was not consenting. So there's an option that, maybe they're all found guilty of all the charges. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are found guilty. Maybe none of them are found guilty. We don't know at this point. We just don't know.
And it is still quite early, of course, in this trial. A lot to come, a lot of details. Michelle Mackey, appreciate you joining and breaking down what is indeed, quite an emotional trial to cover, also on a personal level. So we appreciate you taking the time for us. Thank you.
Horace, thank you so much for having me.
And that was The Big Story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other episode by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all of your favorite podcast players. Please rate, review, follow, and share. I'm Melanie Ng. Thank you for listening.
With McValue at McDonald's, you don't just get deals on the drinks. You get deals on McDonald's drinks. So when you're breaking a sweat, embrace the chill without breaking the bank. And when your crew is running on empty, keep your wallet full while refreshing the squad.
Ace the vibe check with drinks like lemonade, frozen Fanta Blue Raspberry, or any size drink for just $1.49. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.